Hi, everyone. This is David, and welcome to Week 6, Session 6 of Business Communications, part of your FedEx Business Essentials Certificate program. This week, we have three major topics to cover. First, we're going to continue our discussion of presentations. Second, we're going to do a brief overview of the skills and techniques that we've covered throughout the past 5 weeks. And finally, we're going to talk, of course, about your final project, your personal communication plan. Let's get started by continuing our discussion of effective presentations by taking a look at the preparation section of your classroom website. First up is 9 tips for more powerful business presentations. This is an article from Forbes magazine. You'll notice that we've already covered most of these. Include a goal early in the presentation. It's what we call bluff. Bottom line up front. That goal, that objective, that bottom line should be presented, we said, as a benefit to the audience. And it should also be used to tie the entire presentation together. Note that number 3, use supporting material liberally. You're told, quote, you don't have to include it in your slides, but make sure it is in your speaking notes. This coincides with the point we've been developing about minimizing the amount of text on your slides. Number 4 tells you to begin separate ideas with powerful quotations or images, which is what I tried to show you in the sample presentation that I gave in last week's video, where an entire slide can consist of 1 or 2 or 3 words only, or an entire slide can consist of a single image. Now, I really like number 8 here. Have your own questions ready in case nobody asks one at the end of the presentation. When you say, any questions? And there's that horrible dead silence. This article suggests prompts like, now at this point I'm usually asked, or one thing you might be wondering about, and those are great ways to get the conversation started after the presentation. This next section, Presentation Secrets of Steve Jobs, provides tips that apply to any department at FedEx, from IT to sales. Steve Jobs had a huge mission to sell his ideas and creations to investors, the entire company, the entire consumer world who he needed to buy his inventions or his creations. Now, the techniques he used to accomplish that mission includes techniques that we've emphasized. 1, clearly setting an overall theme or headline, which contains the key benefit right at the beginning, and then using that theme to tie the entire presentation together. Number 2, setting a clear outline or agenda, and we've talked about limiting that outline or agenda items to 5 or fewer. 3, providing clear transitions between sections of the presentation, even labeling slides as to where you are on the agenda. 4, delivering with passion and enthusiasm, because if you don't have it, your audience is certainly not going to feel it for you or the information and ideas you're presenting. And of course, the last one, make it visual. The Jobs presentation that you're shown here is a textbook example of using the slide as digital scenery. In other words, using it for emotional impact or visual accompaniment, whether it's filled with 1 or 2 words or filled with numbers or filled with an image. Now, the second part of this week is devoted to an overview or review of the major concepts and skills that we've covered throughout the past week. This overview or review begins with talking about the 5-point communication strategy. And those 5 points are, first, knowing your objective or outcome, because if you don't know it clearly, it's going to be very difficult for you to make it clear to your audience. 2, fashioning the content around that outcome, letting that outcome drive everything in the presentation. 3, knowing your audience really well, whether it's an individual or a group, and then tailoring that content, customizing it to that audience. and customizing it to the culture of the organization. And 5, of course, choosing the right channel for your message. Sometimes face-to-face is the right channel. Sometimes it's email. Sometimes it's a report. Sometimes it's a presentation. But you must choose the right channel. Then comes Alessandra's The 4 Communication Styles: emotive, directive, supportive, and reflective, which are so important for you, help you understand the people that you're actually interacting with and how best to communicate with them using the Platinum Rule. Next is the importance of candor, as it creates trust and transparency in your relationships, in the workplace, and in your life, and throughout the entire company. You now know the 7 keys to running effective meetings. You also know how to understand and manage and benefit from conflict, something that must exist and must be managed positively for you and your company to thrive. Then we looked at guidelines for effective emails and arrived at the conclusion: the shorter the better, the chunkier the better. And the same for reports, where you were also introduced to the important concept of info mapping. And finally, we've been talking about the keys to effective presentations, where I advocate limiting, if not completely avoiding, use of the bullet list. Now, the final part that we're going to cover this week is your final project, your personal communication plan. If you haven't already shared your topic with me and gotten my feedback, I encourage you to do so as soon as possible, even if it's just through an email. Now, keep in mind, sharing your topic with me and getting my feedback or approval is voluntary. It is not mandatory that you do that, just highly recommended. Now, in regards to your final communication plan, it must contain the following things. 1, you identify an area of opportunity for improvement, and that can be to an individual or team communication process. But remember, this is a course in business communications, so the topic that you choose must relate to a communications process or a communications attempt or some form of communication within your workplace. Okay, 2, as Nancy Duarte says in her TEDx talk, the next thing you want to do in your final communication plan is to describe the status quo. Then you describe how great things will be after your suggestions are implemented. That's that up and down mapping that she described. 4, you outline your plan. You include action steps, due dates. You also include supports and resources for getting to that new state. And then finally, you tell how you will know that you got to that new state. In other words, how success is measured. Remember, this final project is worth more than any other assignment in the course, 36% of your grade. And also remember, you have to earn 80% to pass the course. Now, the final project is due Thursday, February 16th, so you have 4 days after the last day of class to work on it. Also keep in mind that you can produce either a written report or slide presentation, but if you do a slide presentation, it must have audio. Now, regarding technology, there are 2 dead simple programs I encourage you to look at when it comes to recording your presentation: Novio and PresentMe. Both are cloud-based applications. You simply upload your slides, turn on your webcam, and give your presentation. When you're finished, you'll be given a link to turn in that will allow me, and only me, or anyone you give the link to watch your presentation. Now, I've done video tutorials on both programs, but you'll find plenty of tutorials on YouTube and also the application's websites. Again, they're dead simple to use. Point, click, speak. You won't have any problem. Okay, so there you go. You should feel highly confident going into this final week and this final assignment. You've been great in understanding and applying the skills and techniques and ideas that we've covered so far in the 5 weeks of the course. Now, when it comes to this final project, you do not have to refer formally to the class concepts. You don't have to, I don't want any citations or formal referrals to the materials in this course. Let the materials come in naturally as you work on this very real project, kind of osmosis-like. So again, no citations to them, no formal reference to them, please. And let me end with saying, as usual, if you have any questions, get in contact with me immediately by phone, email, or text. All 3 of those modes are available to you in the classroom. Okay, good luck on week 6, and I'll see you in the live lecture on Thursday.